Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live. I hope you guys are well. My name is Louis Mendez. On this week's show, we will be looking back at yesterday's quite remarkable 6-0 shellacking of Shrewsbury Town at the Valley. Joining me to look back at that game, first up, the First Lady of Charlton Live, Sue Gallup. How you doing, Sue?
I'm good. I'm even better for that yesterday.
Yeah, it sort of came out of absolutely nowhere, that result, but it really was, one of those enjoyable afternoons at the Valley that we've been lacking a little bit at times this season, but yesterday was certainly right up there. Also joining us, a man who's had to make a mad dash to his pub this morning because he left his laptop there last night, Mr. Joe Puddifoot. How you doing, Joe?
Oh, good. Thank you very much, Louis. Hi, Louis. Hi, Sue. Hi, Manny as well. It was nice yesterday, wasn't it? It sort of made you think that we were good and get you all excited for next season. So I'm looking forward to service being resumed soon. But I'm going to enjoy the high while it's here.
Yeah, as Manny Egbo said on Twitter yesterday, no one defended like a dickhead, and that was very much enjoyable. And well, apart from maybe Shrewsbury, I guess you could argue, but yeah, an excellent result from the Addicts. So we're going to hear the goals from that in a few moments' time. We're going to hear from the Addicts boss Dean Holden as well, and also we're going to hear from Terell Thomas, which is good for Matthew, who in the comments has said it was a brilliant day yesterday. Excellent goals. Were good. Most pleasing that we worked hard from start to finish, and a special mention to Terell Thomas, who's been in really good form recently. So we're going to hear from Terell later on in the show. So welcome to everyone who's joining us live on YouTube this morning, on your Sunday morning as well. A few comments coming in as well. Get your questions in if you've got anything you want to ask us or want us to speak about on yesterday's performance. But Sue, I mean, just before we hear the goals, even about 25 minutes into yesterday's game, you wouldn't see that coming. But once we got going, we really got going, and Shrewsbury didn't come anywhere near stopping us. It was an excellent performance in the end.
Yeah, I think like when we was talking about last week's game, like I think just in terms of how we were passing the ball around and stuff, it was nice football again. But it was just like, right, this is same old. Are we going to do anything with it? And then, like you say, that first worldy free kick from Scott, and then that was it. It was almost like Shrewsbury kind of went meh, and we upped our game a level. And it was just like you say, me having breakfast with you in the cafe yesterday. That was probably the last thing on our mind, that we were going to be like thumping them 6-0. But I think trying to pick a player of the match, like, how could you? I don't know how you could, because I think everyone put a shift in, even with the subs. So, great, just a great game.
Yeah, and there was me thinking that having breakfast with Sue in Valley Caff was going to be the highlight of my day, but it just got better and better after that. Joe, I don't know where. I mean, it's one of those games where I guess deep down there's a little bit of like, why haven't we done this all season? Frustration is there, but I don't know. At times, maybe we'll think about that later on in the show. Let's just enjoy the fact that it happened for the first little period of it.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed it last night, so I look a little bit haggard this morning. We had a fair few people actually in from Shrewsbury, so that actually made my life even better because I got to see them looking miserable rather than all of our locals for a change. So. But we were clinical, we were sharp, we were all over them. They really offered very, very little, and even jokingly at halftime, I said we can still lose 4-3. But I didn't for one moment think yesterday that it was going to be anything other than an absolute riot. Once we got going, so we were just unstoppable. Raksaki, I mean, what a class player he is. He just exemplified everything that you sort of need at this level as a side, which is someone that could just make the difference. 3 assists for the first 3. 2 assists for the first 2. Goal as well. A young man that really is coming on sort of every single game for us, and it would just be a shame when he goes back to Chelsea in the summer.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love that to happen somehow. Right, let's have a listen back to the goals then from Charlton TV. As always, the commentators were Greg Stubley and Terry Smith.
Fraser to take. It's over the wall. Yes! Oh, it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful from Scott Fraser. He just hit it perfectly over the wall. Morosi scrambling across, couldn't get there. And after 26 minutes, Charlton have the lead.
Scott Fraser celebrates his birthday week with an absolute cracker of a free kick. As you said, Greg, last attempt off a crossbar. When he lined up for this, there was nobody else who's going to take that except Scott Fraser, and he picked out that top corner with absolute perfection.
Fraser looks long towards Raksaki. Referee correctly allowing play to continue as Charlton are on the attack. Fraser's down on the floor, but Charlton have it with Raksaki. Inside towards Morgan. Morgan for Charlton. Yeah, he finished! Yes, he can! Brilliant finish from Morgan. Charlton counter-attacked. Came the way of Raksaki. Found Albie Morgan in space. The ball bounced up nicely. And he had enough power in his shot to beat Morosi. And Charlton 2-0 up.
Well, this is something you might not hear me say too often, but one of the prime assists there comes from referee Robert Maley. Fraser taken out by Sadie in the centre circle, but the ball out to Raksaki, found the Charlton winger in space on the right hand side. He took his man on and then saw the run of Albie Morgan towards the edge of the penalty area. Lovely setup by himself and drills it past Morosi for Charlton's second.
Ball forward, well cut out by Morgan. Here's Raksaki for Charlton, driving towards the edge of penalty area. Raksaki onto his right foot. Raksaki trying to poke it goalwards, and that's a brilliant finish. And Charlton have their third. When he picked that ball up, Shrewsbury didn't know what he wanted to do. Gets it onto the right hand side and a little poke, a clever poke beyond Morosi. And Charlton 3-0 up.
And the credit this time should go to Albie Morgan, who lunged in to make sure the ball couldn't be cleared by Shrewsbury, by Flanagan. A little touch into Raksaki. Miles Cleaver makes the run ahead of him, draws defenders away, goes out on his right foot, and then you think he's going nowhere and just pokes his left foot at it. Whether Morosi was caught out, not really expecting it, I'm not sure. But the angle in which he got on the little toe poke with his left foot took it beyond the Shrewsbury keeper and into the back of the net.
Side Sessegnon finds Flanagan, continues his run from centre half. Morgan with a sliding challenge, and Thomas is there for Charlton. Ball forward, we'll find Leeburn, one-on-one against Dunkley. Leeburn holding the ball up. Pennington is back there. Leeburn will go for goal, and he scores! Of course he scores! The golden boy of Charlton again. Miles Leeburn, there's confidence for you. Ball forward from Thomas. Leeburn controls it, brings it forward. Morosi was caught out. Leeburn had the presence, had the awareness to finish, and gets shoulder fourth.
Heads towards the covered end, and I'm sure he's pointing his finger to his dad, saying, "I'm coming to get you." That 16's in real trouble now. From the moment he picked it up, from the ball out, two men round him, had the composure, first to go one way, then the other, then drill it. I think went through the legs of Pennington, which left Morosi with no chance. 4-4, boys on fire.
To his left, all down the line is beautiful. Campbell in space in the penalty area across to Sessegnon. Was hit Raksaki. Of all players. Oh, the referee's given a penalty.
It didn't hit Raksaki according to the officials. I mean, they're saying that it's hit somebody's arm.
That's his second yellow card for Flanagan. Must have hit the arm of Flanagan. I thought it hit Raksaki. Instead, Charlton can have a penalty. And Shrewsbury's day is just going to get worse here. It's a red card for Flanagan. Leeburn scores. Charlton have a fifth. Leeburn has a second. The day just gets better and better for Charlton.
They can't finish that one. Tricky for Raksaki. Might still get there. No, Lee just gets there and the shot comes in from Henry. Bond, can he finish? Yes. Charlton do it a sixth. Slightly fortuitously, the shot came in, landed at the feet of Macaulay Bond, who turned, couldn't believe his luck with the space he had. And had no problem slotting it past Morosi for number 6.
Well, there's a player who's waited a long time to get his goal. Macaulay Bond hasn't had a lot of joy since he came back to the Valley. But that will mean a lot to him. A little fist pump. I mean, as you say, Tell, the way it came his way, Darren Henry just getting there first with the goal. Bond controls in acres of space, just has to finish, and does so. And I'm delighted for him.
Well, there we go. Cracking day at the Valley. Excellent commentary as always from the boys. So cheers for that. It's just remarkable how much I enjoyed that yesterday, Sue. Because, like you say, in the morning, no one really saw that coming. That we've had a bit of a naff time of it at home recently. That was our first home win in 5 or 6 games. Our first one since mid-January. It's a long time since we won at home. It's a long time since we kept a clean sheet at home as well. All of these things are the reason we are mid-table. But in order to get into mid-table, you have to win some games. So, yeah, enjoy it while it lasts. The quality of the goals in the first half and even in the second half, like the first three in particular, though, all three of them were excellent. Scott Fraser's free kick was fantastic. Again, every time I say something about yesterday's game, I'm thinking, why don't we do this more often? Why doesn't Scott Fraser, pitching with a few more goals? He's up to 7 now, which isn't that bad for a midfielder. I'd like to see him hit double figures this season and next. That was an excellent goal. Albie Morgan's goal was brilliantly worked and an excellent advantage from the referee. And Jez Raksaki's goal was one of the best goals in terms of an individual goal I've seen in League One for as long as I can remember. It's just the quality that we showed yesterday is the thing that has been missing at times, but at least we have got it in us sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, I like Joe said about Jez, like just the confidence of a young man to score from there, like it's just you just stand up and you just like, you know what, wow, like to have that level of confidence to do that one. I think obviously like with Scott's free kick, you fancy him to take it from there. I know like last week was it Sean Clare that was on free kicks and didn't really work. I don't know whether Sean coming off kind of helped this situation just in terms of how we were playing, because I'm so impressed with Cess. I think he's fantastic. And yeah, again, like lovely to see Albie score, because we was talking about it after the game, and like he gets quite a bit of stick. And I think we were sort of saying maybe years ago he would have been a lad that would have been loaned out to a League Two team, like non-league, got a bit of confidence together. But he was chucked in. He did show that level of ability, but the inconsistency is there. But just you can see in his face the relief to score and just have like such a good game for him was amazing. And even like you say, Miles' fault, like the fourth goal, Miles' goal, like what was the keeper doing? But again, the confidence of a young lad to shoot and score from there is, you can see where Dean's like instilling that confidence in these boys. You know what? Just have a crack, have a go. Like if it doesn't go in, it doesn't go in. But at least you've had a go, and I think that's showing in us, particularly because we have got such a young side at the moment, and they just seem like they're playing for fun. They haven't got that weight on their shoulders, and I think that was really showing yesterday.
Yeah, that lack of pressure obviously comes from the fact that we are playing for nothing, and that we sort of got ourselves into this situation, and they obviously played into our hands a little bit yesterday. Sue mentioned Albie Morgan. All hell let loose said Albie's playing for a new contract and making a very good job of it. It's 3 or 4 starts in a row now from Albie. We'll hear what Dean Holden has to say on Albie in a few moments' time, because I did ask him the question about the fact his contract's coming up, but we need to see it more often. And again, we'd probably say that about pretty much every member of our squad, which is why we're in League One and why Dean will have a lot of difficult decisions to make in the summer in terms of who of the current lot he'd like to keep. And I'd say maybe when we started having this conversation a month ago, Albie was very much one people were wavering on. Has anything changed in the last few weeks for you, Joe? Has he done it consistently enough over the last few weeks? Is there still something for him to prove?
I think there's something for him to prove that he can be regularly part of a promotion challenging team. Both him and Fraser have the tendency to fade in and out of games. And for me, when Henry came on, what I felt was that I was watching in Henry what I was expecting to watch in Morgan. And so I think that, his distribution is good, but he probably just tries far too hard. Needs to just get back to identifying what is the game that he wants to play, the style he wants to play, and really honing in on it and sort of creating a role for himself in the side where you can't drop him, because his range of passing is really, really good. He's working much, much harder off the ball than he did when he first came through. But there's still those moments where it's just not quite there at this level. So, yeah, I think any squad you need players like Morgan who are just going to give absolutely everything for the shirt, and you can't fault his desire, you can't fault how much he wants it. but you can fault his application at times. And for every good spell he's had 1 or 2 bad spells. So he just needs to get that consistency in his game and really find a hole for himself where he doesn't go disappearing in games. And then he'll be coming through. But it's good to see him getting goals because he should be scoring goals. He's got the ability to score goals. And it's good to see him mixing it in a little bit with Dobbo, because Dobbo is isolated otherwise on his own, trying to fend everyone off. But I think midfield, although we've got a lot of bodies there, I think we've got a lot of bodies who do exactly the same thing. We need more difference makers in that area that are going to really take the game by the scruff of the neck week in, week out and drag us through this league over the course of 46 games. I'm not quite sure Morgan or Fraser, to be fair, are those players at the minute.
Yeah, morning to ND Miller. It's 5 a.m. where he lives, so I hope you're all right. And Mono said he was out in Turkey for the game. What a great one to miss. Yeah, bad luck on that one. The handball for the penalty. I mean, so we've spoken about Miles' first goal, which was superb. Dan Raunch says, was the handball a questionable one? Now, I've watched it back from a few angles. We've got a cameraman at the Valley who sometimes sends me different angles that I can look at. And in real time, the ball looks like it comes off Jez and goes away. But I've slowed it right down, and you can see a portion where the ball goes beyond Jez and hits the world's unluckiest man, Tom Flanagan. But he does handball it. So I think actually, even though in real time, it was a remarkable spot by the referee, Bobby Madley, a Premier League level referee. But even that doesn't normally mean you're any good. But it was a great spot from him. Obviously, we can talk about how Tom Flanagan, who got sent off yesterday, is the most unlucky player in the world when it comes to facing Charlton. So that's the 8th time he's played Charlton in his career. He's not won any of those 8. That's the 2nd time he's been sent off at the Valley. Once was for Sunderland, once was obviously yesterday. Obviously, he gave away the free kick that led to the goal. He gave away the penalty yesterday. He got headbutted by Jayden Stockley last season. Remember when we were allowed to pretend it wasn't a headbutt, but it probably was a bit of a headbutt, and he bled quite a bit from that. And to top it off, he was, of course, the man that deflected in Bauer 90+4 on the goal line at Wembley. So he must hate playing us. But he gave away a penalty, and that was the 5th. We haven't had too many penalties this season, so we did say a few weeks ago, I wonder who would take them. Obviously, Miles was the man on the spot, but his season, and we spoke about it pretty much every week, has been remarkable. But it sort of summed it up for me quite nicely yesterday when I bumped into Tracy before the game. And I was just saying, like, oh, Miles is having such a great season, isn't he? And she said something so great for me. She said, like, at the start of the season, being, a mother, she was nervous going into games when Miles was playing. But that nerves has gone away for her every week now. It's in anticipation and excitement to see what he can do this week. And I think that shows in his performances as well. I think that same level of confidence has grown as the season's gone on for him. And he's never going to miss that penalty, was he, Sue?
No, not in the form that he's in at the moment. You can just see the confidence he's oozing from him. And to be fair, he probably wouldn't want anyone else to take it. We talked about it last week. For a young lad, he's got such a. He feels like he's a bit of an old soul in the fact that he's very calm and chilled and sort of unassuming. He got man of the match again yesterday. It's just, I think for him, the frightening thing for me now is like clubs are going to be sniffing, and with our future uncertain at the minute in terms of ownership and stuff, that is my biggest fear at the minute. I mean, I think Tracy and Carl were very much of the thing that they'll try and keep him grounded and go, you know what, mate, another season in League One if someone was to come in for him. But as we know, it's not always the player's decision as to whether they get sold or not. So that's a big concern for me, because I would hate to see him go to like a big Prem club, and a bit like Mason, although he's developing in the 23s for Chelsea, he deserves to be playing in a team's first team with the ability that he's got. So it's just, it's a mixture of excitement and anxiety with Miles. But yeah, just now you're looking at the last, we got 5 or 6 games that you're thinking, right, how many more is he going to get? Because you've got that much confidence in him.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'd love to. He's on 12 now. He could easily hit 15, which would be in the first season. That would be an absolutely remarkable turnaround. Consider how long was he out injured for? About 2-3 months as well. We forget about that. He had a good chunk of the season taken away from him. All hell let loose was Albie holding the ball prior to the penalty as if he was going to take it, only to pass it along to Miles as a deliberate tactic. And that was the same question asked by Cabby on Twitter as well earlier on. And that's exactly what it was. You've seen when Liverpool do it, and it's James Milner or whoever picking up the ball, and like they always highlight it on the TV, but we've obviously decided to copy that, and it worked because it takes the pressure off. It takes the pressure off Miles Lieburn because Albie's the one getting the stick from Morosi, the goalkeeper, and the defenders, and it obviously worked quite nicely. I mean, the only Freeman said when we're talking about Morgan, said, can we bring someone better in there? Does it really look like we'll have promotion chasing funding next year? It feels like another penny pinching year is in store for us, unfortunately. And that's similar to a question that Phil asked us on Twitter during the week. He said, we're speculating how much our new owner's personal wealth might be, but how much would it actually cost to get the squad promoted? You know, contracts and all that can be debated to death. But he says, I'd start off with something like £3 million. I mean, it's hard to put an exact figure on it because if you recruit wisely, then you can do it cheaper. But yeah, the way we have these conversations about is he going to be good enough to be part of a promotion winning squad, Joe, I think if we didn't speak like that, I think we'd be letting the club off the hook a little bit. If we sort of accepted that we probably won't have the budget and just reset our expectations towards that, then I think we're probably as a fan base accepting that we're just mediocre, which is what we are. But as a Charlton fan, I expect a lot more than that.
Yeah, and we should expect more than that, to be fair. And we're not, there's large chunks of the ground that are not paying middle of League One prices for their season tickets. So if you're going to charge 30 quid a game for a season ticket, then you've got to be chasing the top six. If you didn't think you were going to go somewhere, or you didn't think you were in a league where it'd be a battle to step up and you want to go and watch that and cheer your team to get there, then what is the point in going to 23 home games a season, or if you're mad enough, 46 games across a year? Because it's the hope that gets you there. It's that sort of thrill, that bug that keeps you going. If you just want to watch middle of the road League One football in the middle of the table, then you're not going to command a premium for the seats either. So if we don't have the ambition as well, then why should the club? You need to be putting the onus out there that we expect this from the players. And also players need to think that they're going to go somewhere when they're coming in. Who's signing up and going, oh yeah, I'm going to sign a 3-year contract to just battle around in the middle of League One and go absolutely nowhere if you're a quality player. There's plenty of workman-like guys who might like that for 3 years because they're getting some money. But if you want to watch exciting football, exciting players, then you need to have a club with ambition. That comes from the owner. It also comes from the fans, and it definitely has to come from the playing staff too.
Yeah, it certainly does. Right, loads of comments coming in. Keep them coming in. Paul said, being a glass empty sort of fella, I tell myself that the Shrews didn't have much to play for, but perhaps I'm just bitter that my aging bladder meant I missed a collector's item of a Macaulay Bond goal as well. And someone else said Macaulay Bond scoring on Only Fool's Day was quite funny as well. And Dan said, can we talk about Bond denying Henry a goal? I mean, look, the way it worked out, if anyone needed a goal, is someone who hadn't scored since January last year, and Macaulay Bond is obviously the perfect game for it to happen. But yeah, please for him as well. I mean, there's comments about Ryan Innes coming in. Luke said, I thought Ryan Innes was quality yesterday. It makes you think twice about letting him go of him when he plays like that. And that like I say, that's the conundrum we're in now, is that we've seen some of these players how they have been over a course of a season, and then we can't think. And then do we think, well, because they've played well in the last 3 or 4 games towards the end of the season, do we then keep them? And that's obviously a difficult situation for Dean to be in. I'd rather him than me on that one, because it's a lot of tough calls have got to be made. Let's hear from him anyway then. So I spoke to him after yesterday's 6-0 thrashing of Shrewsbury Town, and asked him for his thoughts on the game. It's the first time that Charlton scored 6 at home in a league game for nearly 50 years, and some achievement. You must be proud of your team's performance this afternoon.
Yeah, some start in it, very much so. I mean, I think the first 20-25 minutes was a little bit scrappy. I think it was the game that Shrewsbury wanted to play. It was stop-start. We had the injury to Sean Clare, rolled his ankle early on in a tackle, and Cess comes in and performed well in a difficult moment. And then it was Scotty Fraser's master technician free kick, which livened us up a little bit. It's a wonderful free kick, stood right behind it, and Hazy actually said Scotty Fraser 1-0, he just fancied him, and it goes in the top corner, and on the back of that we then go and get a quick second. So that sort of 25 minutes to half time I thought were electric. Looking at the opposition, we knew that there was gaps to be had, and credit to Josh, the analyst, and again to Hazy, the work that they put in terms of opposition. We knew you could run off the back of their midfield. Albi, I think they had a free kick, and we regained it outside our box, and we get up the pitch quickly, which we did all afternoon. We looked dangerous on that counter attack all afternoon, and Albi's running gets beyond their midfielder, which is where we knew the spaces would be. Jez has got the wherewithal to find him, and it's a great first touch and a wonderful hit to get that second goal, and then obviously to get the third as quick as we did before half time was really important, because it then almost takes the game away from them. We knew, and I know Steve Cottrell really well personally, so I knew how they would come out in the second half. We needed to manage that first 15 minutes. Dobbo had been told by the referee that if he's one foul away from a red card, so spoke to him at half time, managed that first 15 minutes, and then we can bring young Aaron Henry on, who thought come on and grew into the game, played really well with some of his passing, and we then obviously go and get the fourth, and they get the sending off, and I think we've ended up with 11 shots on target. I think they've had one, so I think there's no doubt it's the most complete performance since I've come into the job, and the players probably said that it was obviously the most complete performance of the season, so that's a positive. The biggest thing in all this is, or the second biggest thing, is a clean sheet. And the other thing is that I'm just glad our supporters got to see a complete performance, because it's been a long time coming. Let's not forget about that. And we've been good away from home recently, and decent at home, but not good enough. So I'm pleased that the guys that turn up on a match day at the Valley have got to see a lot of goals, and it's been a good afternoon. Yeah,
is it frustration that I guess it hasn't been seen more often, this level of performance? Because Charlton have done it 3 or 4 times this season, scored a few goals in games. Yeah,
I think I said that after the Morecambe game, didn't I, recently? It is a frustration, and you stood there at 5-0 late on thinking, if we could have done this more consistently, where would we be in the league? But at the same time, we are where we are. We know what's gone before. Obviously, I came into the job, and obviously we've rectified the dangerous position we were in, and we've regained some ground on Shrewsbury. I think we're 10th in the league. So I think it was. You look at as good as we were with the ball today. From 25 minutes on, I thought we were excellent with the ball in terms of possession, in terms of creating things. But if you look at the goals, I think Scotty Fraser's free kick, obviously with Miles with the penalty. So 2 set pieces, and then we've had 2 counter-attack goals, and 2 where we've won the ball high up in terms of our aggression and our high press. So for all the possession we had, a nice sort of side to side and all that's how we've won the game, really. So that's pleasing. Delighted for Miles to get his first brace of the season. I actually said to him yesterday prior to training, "Are you on for 4 in 4?" And he said no, and I said, "Why?" He said, "I want 5 in 4." He genuinely did, and then he went quickly, "No, I want 6." So I was looking at bringing him off just prior to the penalty. Just obviously he's had his issues with niggles, and I thought he's got his second now. We can't bring him off on an hat-trick, so we bring Macaulay Bonne on purely to see if Macaulay can go and get himself that first goal, because he's the elephant in the room. He's, as a striker, you're always wanting that. There's no doubt about that, and he's been brilliant around the place, keeping the boys bubbling. He's been left out the team. He's reacted in the right way. So as much as anything, I'm delighted for Macaulay to get his first goal. Yeah, it's big for him now. I guess for everyone between now and the end of the season, if he could get a couple more, then that will give you something to think about over the summer. Yeah, I think so. I think that's proven. You've seen it time and time again. I think once they get that first, there's no doubt it's a release for them mentally, and he can go and play with some freedom now and go and see how many he can get. He's got to be his target. I think again, young Zach comes on at centre back. His first challenge was that 50-50 with Bowman, who's an experienced striker. So it shows you that Zach's up for that side of the game as a centre back, which is important. But again, the ball at his feet is one hell of a player. He's a fantastic technician. So it was good to get the youngsters onto the pitch as well towards the end. Again, we can't get carried away, can we? We are where we are, and we've got now 2 good games over a fantastic. Everybody enjoys Easter weekend football. We go down to Bristol, we go across to Bristol. Good Friday, a tough game for us, and then back here against Burton. And I think someone just said we've only got 1 game remaining against teams in the top 10. I think in Ipswich. So good opportunity to get some more points, and let's see where we end up. It was a really good finish from Albie, very similar to his goal against Bolton actually. But is he another player who needs to find a bit more consistency in what he does? Yeah, I think so. I mean, me and Albie get on great. I mean, we have a lot of conversations. I love him to bits. I think as a personality, he's he's the type of guy I can relate to. He's a winner. He cares. He wears his heart on his sleeve. At times that can get the better of him, but that's just part of who he is as a footballer. And in fairness to him, I think he's been a bit stop-start. I had a good conversation with him. I think that's his third start on the spin. I think now third or fourth. I think it's his third. And I said to him, he had this feeling every time the team got beat or we didn't play so great, he was the first one out. And I think that's happened. Prior to me coming into the job with previous managers, and I think he probably needed that little bit of a run. I think every player, or certain players have certain personalities, he's trying to have the best game he can possibly have in 60 minutes, knowing he might get took off, and that can sometimes take away from your performance for the team. So we had a good chat, as I say, prior to this running the team, and I think he's shown with the last 3 performances what a good player he is. He's a fantastic passer of the ball. He can clearly score goals. Defensively, he'll have a goal as well. He'll get stuck in and he'll compete. And no, I think he's out of contract. I think Summers another player that we've obviously got to have a conversation with, but I think he played well today.
Did you start to have those conversations already, or is it still something they've still got time to sort of prove themselves between now and then?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think either way, whether you've made a decision on a player or not at this stage of the season, you've got to be a bit careful because there's still some games to play. Of course, I've got an idea of the squad that I want for next season in terms of the numbers and also the personnel, both internally and also bringing some players in, obviously, from outside the club. So decisions are still to be made on all the squad. But while the lads are performing like that can only be good for them.
Just some injury updates, as we always have, just to finish off. The likes of Todd Kane, who we haven't heard from for a while now, he was a few weeks away a few weeks ago. Manny as well, who was involved in the squad, and then we've just seen him out warming up a couple of times, and obviously Sean, he's gone off today.
So Sean's rolled his ankle in a tackle, so again we'll see. He had a bag of ice on at half time. Let's see how much that may or may not swell up and whether we need a bit of time to get that right. We'll have to see. Todd Kane is progressing in the right way. He's trained with the team in the last 3-4 days. He's been out for 10 weeks, I think, so today was too early for him. There's a game on Tuesday night against Welling, under 21s game, which is going to be a proper game in terms of a crowd, in terms of maybe what you don't get against an normal under 21. So that'll be a good game for Toddy to play in, amongst a couple of others that need minutes. It's good timing actually for that game because it will be a good game to set them up. And Manuel Egboye, he came in on the bench, and then we left him out to utilise Cess on there because we think Cess can play a couple of positions. And last weekend's game, he sort of felt something on the Friday, so he wasn't in the squad, but that's fine. He's trained all week, and again today, Ryan went into the game with some very, very slight minor knock. Came out of training yesterday. Ryan declared himself fit this morning. I thought it was excellent, by the way, today. I think it was a big part of that clean sheet with his save on the line or whatever happened. I can't quite remember when Matty Pennington came off for them. And to credit to Ryan for that. And we just felt we needed an extra defender on the bench, so we went with young Zach and obviously Cess. It was proved right in terms of we needed Cess for Sean's injury, which meant we obviously lost a midfield as well now. So Gav Kilkenny missed out, unfortunately, today, as did Matty Penny. So it's not an easy thing to juggle, if I'm honest with you. It's there's 3 good lads there, good players that are being left out of the match day squad. But they all know they'll be involved. It's happened, as I said there, it's happened with Albie Morgan, was out for a period of time. All of a sudden he's training well, he comes back into the squad and proves himself. So that's what the boys have got to keep doing. There's a good spirit, there's a really good spirit. And we've just got to make sure that we take that into the next game.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Just there we heard from the Addicts boss, Dean Holden. Just to mark your cards as well, on Thursday, we are expecting to be having Dean Holden live on the show. So you'll have the ability to ask questions, etc. in the ticker. As long as nothing changes between now and then. We were organising it yesterday, so he'll be live from the team hotel down at Bristol. So make sure you join us for that one on Thursday at 7 o'clock live on YouTube. We'll have the Addicts boss with us, which should be really good. Really pleased with yesterday's performance as well. But as Paul said in the chat, he remains very level-headed, despite obviously it could easily be an opportunity to get carried away. Someone else was saying about how he's sort of bringing confidence to the players over the last few weeks, which I think is fair. Dan saying I'd like to see Mitchell get some more game time now as well. When he came on, he was brilliant, very comfortable on the ball, and Dean mentioned that in the interview there as well. It's been a good start for Dean. I don't think you can deny that now. Overall, we've had bad runs in that time, which you can't forget, and a couple of bad performances here and there too. But it's the same probably with every manager we've had since Sandgaard's come in. Pretty much all of them have had a good run at one point. Only Garner had he had some good performances at the start of the season, but they're never really backed up by results. But for these managers to kick on, we all know what needs to happen. So Dean will be one of a long line of people who hope that this summer is a lot more successful than the last one, and that would involve a change of ownership and a new owner who's going to spend to the extent that we need. And obviously that's still up in the air at this moment in time.
Yeah, it must be really difficult for Dean. I mean, obviously, if he didn't have confidence in what he was able to do, he wouldn't have signed that new 3-year deal. But I think, as we know, like, promises have been made historically and then not followed through on in terms of building a squad. But then I know we sometimes harp on about the history, but look at what Chris Powell did with next to no money. It is doable, but it's just about getting the right people. We won't use that phrase again, Louis. The right sort of personalities. To be able to really buy into the ethos of the club and what it means to wear the Charlton shirt, not just about being a good player, but being a good person. And I think Dean's definitely someone that's got the ability to bring that out of players. I mean, just when you listen to him, you get sucked in. He's like one of those sorts of personalities that you just think, God, if I played for him, I'd run through a brick wall for him. He's just that sort of guy. And obviously you want to see that in your players, and he's going to know better watching them in training who's up for that challenge next season and who isn't, but also what sort of people need to be coming in that are not going to be dickheads. They're going to get on with the job. They're going to do what they need to do, but also be humble, good, hard-working people.
Yeah.
And it is that difficult, again, we're in that sort of grey area of not knowing who's going to own us, who's going to be putting the money in, if there'll be any money. It just must be so hard for him, and I've got so much respect for him.
Excellent stuff. Right, we've had a couple of emails as well. Sophie from out in Michigan in the US says, is it possible after a 6-0 win there's going to be some positivity on the pod this week? I love listening every week and wait in anticipation for every show. The last 2 months have left me feeling a little bit deflated after listening. Who knew it really did turn into the fixture we were all waiting for? Keep up the good work, boys, especially, and girls, especially if it's in support of the team. Yeah, it's no surprise that we've been a little bit deflated over the last few months, and that all hell let loose is saying, am I happy with Charlton this weekend, or am I still in the glass half empty camp? And obviously we can't get too high or too low after 1 or 2 results. I'm still nervous about what's going to happen in the future. I enjoyed the fact we won 6-0. Yeah, I enjoyed it as much as anyone else did, but also I'm very realistic about where we are currently in, which is mid-table in League One and at the lowest point in our history, because this is the longest we've ever spent in League One. So let's not get carried away because we won a couple of games. Another email comes from McSquared. Said that's it. That's more like it that we should be doing against teams of Shrewsbury standard if we can have any realistic hopes of challenging for promotion next season. Such a home result was always likely to come against another side with nothing to play for. We also had a decent ref for once. Can we get him every week? We were miles better than the Shrews on the day. They were so poor they even stopped themselves from scoring in the second half. All of our goals were top class. We could even have had more. Even Bond managed to bag a goal at last, the icing on the cake. 10th is now well and truly within our sights. Should we stay that we're going to aim for 9th? Yeah, well, so we got within 3 points of Shrewsbury yesterday, who are in 10th. So they're on 55, we're on 52. 9th is Portsmouth on 61. So that's another 9 points to make up in the final 7 games. I think we're going to struggle for that. But hey, 10th is probably the ceiling. If we can finish above the mighty Shrewsbury, maybe we could get like an open top bus or something to take us around the streets of Greenwich and Woolwich and Charlton and celebrate, because that would be such an amazing achievement. Right, let's hear from someone else who actually is going to be part of these conversations in terms of the summer. I think it was Dan who said in the comments earlier about Terell Thomas. He says, he said, do you reckon if Thomas keeps this up till the end of the season, will he deserve a renewed contract? Well, he's been playing out of position over the last few days, hasn't he? So let's hear from Terell after yesterday's game. I spoke to him just to sort of find out how he was feeling after the performance, and I did ask him for his thoughts on his own personal future coming up as well. A busy week for yourself, but ends in a spectacular fashion with a 6-0 win over Shrewsbury. It was a great game. What did you make of it today?
Fantastic performance all round. Everyone, the subs that came on, the starting 11, obviously we had an early change. Cess had to come in for Sean, which obviously it's not easy coming into a game, but he came on the pitch and he's fitting like a glove. So everyone was fantastic today.
Yeah, is it just one of those days where everything just seemed to click for the side?
Yeah, just see everything, more than less everything that we tried worked. There's not really much that went wrong really. Everyone's performance was top class, and the goals that we scored were taken greatly. Some good finishes, some team goals and individual goals, just absolutely outstanding. But yeah, happy. Everyone's happy.
Yeah, and I guess deep down there's a little bit of frustration that we haven't seen this sort of performance from Charlton a little bit more this season. I know you've only sort of come in halfway through, but is there a bit of frustration?
When we've spoke as a team, and it is frustrating to think that we can put in these performances, but we are where we are in the league. So it's a thing where we know what we're capable of, and it's just about the game till the end of the season. Continue this energy that we've got about us, the quality that we're putting in the games, and yeah, we'll just see how the end of the season goes.
Yeah, obviously you've had to prove your versatility over the last few weeks, filling in at left back. Have you found playing out there?
I've enjoyed it. I play on the front foot anyway, so it's feel that I've obviously the way I play left back, we've sort of tweaked a couple things, so it helps me in the ability to get up and down. Obviously, I'm a centre back, not a born left back, but I think I've come into the position really well, and I've been really enjoyed it.
Yeah, are you one of those who's happy just to be on the field and playing it at any position? Really?
Yeah. If anywhere I can be to help the team, that is, I'll try my best. And if the manager thinks I can do a job there, then I believe in myself to do a job. And yeah, that's really it. Really.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing you having a pop from outside the area too often today. Was it just the way the game was going that you thought you might have a shot as well?
Yeah, no, yeah. Just when I stepped in, I was a bit off balance anyway to take the shot, but I'll be having plenty more shots in the future.
How have you found it coming back to the club? Obviously, it's a long time since you left, and you've had a varied career around there. But how much have you enjoyed being back in SC7?
No, I've really enjoyed it. Obviously, I know it's a place that I've known since I was 14. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I really want to succeed here in the long term if that's possible. But yeah, I was really enjoyed coming back. Yeah,
and obviously the long term is something that a lot of players at this stage of the season have to start thinking about. I mean, are you in a position currently where you've had chats with the manager about what might come next?
Listen, as a squad and personally, we're just all thinking about the rest of the games. That stuff will sort itself out if or when it happens. So yeah, personally, I just concentrating on playing now. Let's get as many games be on the pitch as much as possible, and keep putting in good performances to allow us to finish as strong as possible. Yeah,
would you like to say if you feel like you do enough between now and the end of the season?
Most definitely. Most definitely.
There we go. That's Terell Thomas speaking to me yesterday. Davin said, "Could Thomas be the answer at left back next season?" I mean, it's playing out of position, Joe. I thought he played very well yesterday, and apart from his shot, which I asked him about, but the reason I asked him about it is because I love to see the confidence of a defender coming out and thinking I'm going to have a go here. He didn't quite catch it right, but yeah, again, like three or four games, he's done all right now. He was off with St. Lucia during the week. I did ask him a bit more about it after the clip ended there, which was interesting as well. He's loving playing for his country, but long term, is he the answer? It's very difficult to have this conversation after a 6-0 win when we have to try and think with our calm head on about whether we should sign all of them again, because obviously we're mid-table in League One, as I have to keep reiterating.
Yeah, I mean, I like Thomas, which may not be a unanimous decision. I don't like him at left back. He's the fact that he can step in there and cover, I think, sort of makes him a bit more helpful. But I would be saying, for me, if we can keep Ness and we can keep Hector, that for me, they would be our two starting centre backs. I think Innes next to Hector seems to be a competent centre back, which is nice to see. I think Hector's quite a calming influence for Innes and sort of helps steady him through the game. So when you've got those kind of sort of characters in the squad, and the same with Ness, starting it off, then you are looking for a fourth choice centre back. Are you going to get a fourth choice centre back much better than Thomas, who can also, when you're stuck, cover at left back without spending silly money when there's probably other areas of the pitch that we need to invest in more? I think that for us, our biggest problem is we've got no left backs signed in the club for next season. And we've got Egbo, who's had his injury troubles. Is he going to be able to do 46 games next season? It feels like potentially not. And then Claire, who I personally don't like at right backs. I think he is defensively prone to a bit of a howler. So I think that looking across the back four, I'd be saying, well, let's keep Thomas and keep Hector and then not sell Ness. And then focus the investment on the fullbacks, which I think is an area of our game that will improve us. Because if we're stopping those crosses coming into the box, if we're able to use those guys as attacking outlets, then you're not going to be under the same amount of pressure as we have been this season. So that's probably my view on it. But I don't think he's necessarily starting right at the top of the league. But not every player in the squad can be that player.
Yeah, and too many of them haven't this season. But again, we'll see. Right, it's time to bring in our guest fan, actually. This week, we have a guest fan every week on a Sunday. Davin did say that Terell Thomas has been excellent at left-back for him, which I think is fair. Let's bring him in. Right, Connor Brennan is this week's guest fan. Connor, thanks for joining us. A fan who goes home and away pretty much every week. How are you this morning, especially after yesterday?
Yeah, all good after yesterday. It was a great performance. You don't see that very often down the valley. So, yeah, it was a great day all round.
Yeah, would you? So, I mean, just to pick up on the conversation we just had, so Terell Thomas in particular, I mean, we've spoken a lot about the players we've had this season, about whether they want to be here next season. I mean, what would you base your decision on? Are you going to base your decision on what we've seen from Terell Thomas in particular in the last few weeks? Are you going to base it on what you've seen this season? What's your views on someone like Terell?
I mean, he's done okay since he come in at left back, but he's not really a left back. We're very unbalanced there at the moment. I mean, it sort of gives us a weak point from an opposition team to sort of see a centre half playing out of position, and it gives them a potential to exploit us. But like I said, how many games he's been there, he's done well. I think I like to see a conventional left back play there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Connor, I don't know if you could get ever so slightly closer to your mic or to your laptop, just because we're struggling with the sound level slightly. But yeah, so one of the reasons I'd like to have you on as our guest fan is, as I say, you go every week. You're a proper diehard, and I can't see a situation where you're going to stop going at any point. But in terms of the scenario that we're in currently, so we're mid-table in League One. It's been a bit of a slog again this season, despite obviously days like yesterday making it a bit more enjoyable. How are you sort of seeing the future at the moment? How confident are you that next season will be better than it has been the last few years?
I mean, this season's been one of those up and down seasons. I mean, we all knew from the first game away at Accrington when we went 2-1 up in the 94th minute and then to concede in the 95th, it sort of set us up for where we are now. But like going forward, I think it's key of what happens off the pitch in terms of the ownership. Whether it all gets sorted out before the start of next season is who knows. But I think it's fair to say that the manager is going to need money because when he comes to the end of the season, we've got a significant amount of players on loan, a few that are out of contract. So we're already going into the unknown of how many players we're actually going to have, say, come pre-season. So it's going to be a very interesting sort of next 2 to 3 months. But no, I mean, if we get the right squad, I think we've got the right manager. Ever since he came into the club, he's bought into the philosophy of the club. He's got to know the ethos and understands what the history of the club is. And I think he's been quite clever as well because he's used and he's spoken to key figures from the club in the past, people like Keith Peacock and Alan Kirbishley, to sort of get an understanding of what the club is and what it means to various people, in particular the supporters. So yeah, I mean, let's get to the end of this season. Like I said before, reassess and then go again, say come August time. So yeah.
Excellent. Right, you had a question sent in earlier on in the show, actually. I don't know if you saw it in the comments. It comes from Robert Baker. Says, can you ask your guest speaker, Connor, why does he let Niall do all the hard work with the drum at away games and doesn't offer to give him a break? So just to fill in everyone, so Niall's your brother.
Yeah.
Like I say, you go to pretty much all the home and away games, and Niall takes the drum as well. So tell us a little bit about it. We always do this with the guest fans. Like I like to learn a little bit more about the people they go with, what it is that keeps them coming, because like I say, I can't remember the last time I went to an away game and didn't bump into you at some point. So you go every week. What is it that sort of keeps you coming back, even when we have been pretty average this season?
I think it's the people I go with. We all have a great day, no matter where we are in the country, whether it's so far north up in Accrington or so far south as in Plymouth. It's the people you see on the away days. It's a great family club, and everyone's there for the same reason. But like you said, Niall is my brother. He's the drummer. And he does a lot of hard work. But really, it's just the people that I go with make me come back, and
excellent stuff. So one of the discussion points that has come out this week is the season ticket situation. So part of the reason that Joe's on specifically this week is because he's made an entire dossier looking into the prices. But just from your own point of view, I don't know, what's your season ticket price look like? Has it gone up a bit? Would there have been a price point that would have made you really think about whether you were going to renew this for next season, or are you one of those that literally that they probably could have put it up to £1,000 and you still would have gone?
Yeah, no, I'd keep coming back. At the end of the day, like I look at it from a point of view that the money doesn't go to the owner, or it goes to the club, and it's what keeps the club ticking over throughout the season. It's the money that harvests, say, for example, the transfer budget, or for example, puts things around the club. And I will always come back. It doesn't matter whether it was £100 increase or £200 increase. At the end of the day, Charlton's a club that I love, and I'll keep coming back to it as long as I can. So. Yeah, times are tough. I get that. But at the end of the day, we all find ways of doing stuff. And I'll certainly try and find ways that I can to make sure I keep coming back every other Saturday.
Excellent stuff, Connor. Right, sit tight. We're going to keep you part of the general conversation for the rest of it. But now, Joe, this is your time to shine, mate. So when was it the season tickets come out? Friday, wasn't it? The prices come out. And within about an hour, Joe had made like a 10-point PowerPoint presentation for us to tell us his views on the pricing. So Joe, you sit east stand middle, and you've sat there pretty much your entire Charlton supporting history as far as I'm aware. So you're one of those who's never going to move your seat, but also that means you are now stuck with the £625 ticket. Tell us your views on the pricing breakdown. So most people have seen a bit of an increase to an extent. There's obviously some quite big price differentials between where you sit in the stadium. So North Lowers, I think you can get one for about $285, which isn't that bad at all. But it's one of the cheaper ones you're going to get. But obviously elsewhere in the stadium is quite a lot. So tell us your findings on this, because it may seem like you're moaning, but also how the club sort of work out their season ticket prices is important in terms of how many people they'll get in the ground, how much money that will generate. If it's too high for some people, that might put people off. If it's too low in other areas, they might not actually be getting as much revenue as they could in that situation as well. Tell us your findings.
So, cards on the table. I have the most expensive season ticket. So, for me, pricing is always going to be that. We got our seats when the East Stand was opened. And we got our seats partly because Dad was doing some work for the club at the time. And so we were a little bit beneficial there in terms of getting that. But there's a lot of people in that block who will have done, just like in the north, in the west central, those guys directly in the front there, they funded the North Stand. They put money in, and 10-year season tickets, and some people bought multiple ones for thousands of pounds in order to get those seats. So there's certain people that are sort of beholden by where they are, which is a bit of a challenge. The zoning system drives me insane for a couple of reasons. One, if you're behind the goal and you're in the upper tier, it's a premium. So they say that sitting up high is a premium. If you're in the West Stand, sitting in the lower tier is suddenly a premium because of the proximity to the dugout. The gap between those is ridiculous. It's 50%. it's a 49% increase to move across an aisle. Now, over the course of the season, that's £200. I can buy a season ticket for myself in Block H in the East Stand, a season ticket for my niece in my current seat, and save myself £140 a year and not move. That doesn't make any sense in terms of having that situation. Over the course of a season, if you sit below North Lower, by the time you take in the 4 free games that you get to bring a mate along and a football for a £5, you get 10 games for free by your uplift in terms of your match day pricing versus season ticket pricing. So that's quite a good incentive to buy a season ticket. I get 1 where I sit. So that doesn't really make any sense to me, because the people who pay the most in terms of their season ticket pricing and putting the most into the club on a season ticket basis are getting the least reward for their loyalty and for their money up front. It also discourages people from trading up. So if you've got a £200 gap between that, and it's 50% to go from North Lower to North Upper as well, why are you going to spend 50% more for your ticket? £100 more, maybe that works. For me, the club need to go back to a much more simplistic view. And I'm not even against having 2 zones in the East Stand, because I actually think that having people right at the very first blocks, directly behind the lino in the penalty area, is an incentive for the club, because you want them putting pressure on the linesman at vital decisions for offsides and stuff like that. You want people directly behind the goal putting pressure on the referees in penalty areas. So I understand why you want to put people in those zones. But just go back to pricing based on day tickets, because currently those two don't go hand in hand. If you say, okay, well, we're going to say £17, £22 and £31, whatever you want to say it is. I've actually got the numbers worked out. Let me just run to those very, very quickly. Yeah, so if you your match day prices are £17 for North Lower family zone, 24 North Upper and the West Stand, and then 31 for the central point in the East Stand. And you gave people 6 games for free, which is essentially in midweek games when you've got people in and around the international scene. Then you would actually have everybody getting the same amount of tickets for free. You'd actually be decreasing the jump from being North Lower to North Upper, or the first block of the East Stand, decreasing the jump for the people in the centre as well. And you would find that people would begrudge less spending money. I don't buy shirts. I don't buy food and drink in the ground. I don't spend any of my extra money on the club, because I am frustrated at being held hostage £200 just because I've got a group of people who all sit together in one zone, and I've sat there. This will be my 30th season ticket. So it's not like I'm not loyal, not like I'm not putting my money where my mouth is. My son had a season ticket when he was minus 22 weeks old. They asked me before they sent it out for the proof of his birth certificate, and I had to send them a scan. So it's about rewarding those people who are loyal, everyone equally. And I think that if you just get to that model, then people will begrudge less what the actual price is, if there's consistency in how you're doing it and your messaging. It's not radical. It just takes a little bit of thinking, a little bit of commercial acumen, which is what we're lacking sorely at the club. And we have done. This structure has been there since Roland just decided to increase it. And by the way, if anyone from the season ticket office is listening, the dugout is not in front of the block that you claim it is. So you might want to just check the map again.
There we go. So Joe has done the maths on the season ticket. So I mean, it's there's a lot of detail that goes into that, but it is important because it will base sort of how many people buy next season, and that is part of what will keep the club sort of going in the long run. Right. A couple more messages, but we'll go a couple of minutes over time just because I want to ask Sue and Connor a couple more questions. Ian has put in the chat, so Ipswich away will be the test at our players of who can actually carry us forward, because Shrewsbury isn't the template. And that's what we need to remember. If you look back at the game against Derby away or Bolton at home, similar sort of setups, and we lost those games quite comfortably. So that's why we can't get carried away with a 6-0 against Shrewsbury, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always difficult to kind of find that balance in it. I think there has been times in our past where we've predominantly played better against better sides. And again, like, we didn't predict what was going to happen yesterday, but it was a doable win going into it. But I think when you look at a team like Ipswich that have done a lot of rebuilding themselves over the last couple of seasons, you do think that the team that started yesterday, is that the team that can get 3 points against Ipswich? I'm not so sure, but use yesterday as a motivation, I would say. Just let them. I think the freedom that they played with yesterday is definitely something that we need to take into the remaining games. So, yeah, it's such a tough one, isn't it? Because, again, you don't know what Ipswich team's going to turn up on the day. Like, they might be looking at it going, no, this is going to be an easy 3 points, and we end up spanking them. So it's just too unpredictable. I'd like to think we'd get a win, but you know me, rose-tinted glasses. Realistically, don't know.
Yeah, well, they got a good 2-0 win at Ipswich, Derby yesterday at Ipswich as well. Paul Davenport said Katrine would be proud of how the club continues to treat its customers in terms of the season tickets as well. Right, so just one more point. So, Connor, so this is a tweet that we've got in just generally about sort of like the players yesterday. So players saying a great performance yesterday. Mitchell and Henry shone when they came on. It was Albie's best game ever. Not a fan, but fair play for fighting for a contract. How can Dino get him to be more consistent? Miles is the business. Can we keep Miles? So I mean, obviously, whether we keep Miles or not in the summer is going to be the interesting point. But I want to ask you about Albie, Connor. So when it comes to the clear out in the summer, I think all hell let loose earlier on sort of pointed out that, even Powley got rid of the player of the year in terms of Semedo. It was a proper clear out. So when it comes to this summer, how much of a clear out do we need to have? And players like Albie, and Albie is probably the perfect example because I could ask 10 different fans and get 10 slightly different assessments of whether he's good enough or not. So what are you expecting to see this summer in terms of a clear out, in terms of the whole squad, and particularly with Albie? Is he one that's done enough for you to be here next season if we are to be serious about making a push for a promotion, if that's going to be the case?
Yeah, I mean, I think I look at it from a couple of points of view. I mean, you've got, obviously, we're going to lose all the players we've signed this season on loan, so we know they're going anyway. I think when you look at it from a squad point of view, players that, for example, that are out of contract, are they going to reassess? Are they going to go, do we want another season of League One football, or are we going to try elsewhere? In terms of Albie, I think you got to keep Albie. Yeah, all right, he didn't start. He's not had a great start to his Charlton career. He's been inconsistent, I think it's fair to say. But you only improve with a good run of games. And I think under the several managers that he's had, he's sort of been given an opportunity, played well in, say, 1 out of 3 games, and then has been sort of dropped, if that makes sense. But I think Dean is sort of now giving him a chance, and I thought he's now taking that chance. I mean, yesterday, I think that's probably one of his best, if not best performances he's had in the Charlton shirt. So, and obviously he capped it off with a goal as well. So, yeah, I mean, for next season, I think you keep him. I'm not sure if he's a guaranteed starter every week, but I think he's a good player to have around the squad. So, yeah, no, for me, I'd keep him for next season.
Excellent stuff. Well, that solves the debate because, as I say, Connor goes every week, so no one knows the side better than him. So there we go. Dean Holden, get that pen out for Albie Morgan. Right, we've come to the end of the show. I've got one more video we're going to play right at the very end, but I'm going to say thank you to everyone who's tuned in. A massive thank you, Connor. It's great to have you on. Like I say, you're always a good bloke to bump into on a away day, so I'm really pleased you said yes when I asked. So thanks for coming on.
No problem.
Absolute pleasure to have Connor on the show with us. Sue and Joe, thanks very much. Joe in particular for getting the spreadsheets out, and you know I'm a big fan of that. Good to see you both.
Yeah, sorry for the rant, guys.
Thanks, Al. It's a great show again.
Always a pleasure to have you both on as well. So I'm Louis Mendes. Thanks very much for listening. As I said, don't forget on Thursday we're hoping to have Dean Holden live on the show. So keep an eye out on social media. And we will give you all the details, but it'll be a chance for some of you guys to ask questions to Dean Holden. So really looking forward to that. So finally, as I said, this is the end of the show, but I just wanted to share this video. As you know, on yesterday was Red, White and Black Day. We covered that on Thursday, but we got sent a video message from Doreen Lawrence thanking us and the club for the hard work that they do in the community. So I thought I'd just share you that with you as we end the show. So thanks to everyone who's listening. We'll see you again on Thursday.
Hello, Charlton Live. I'm Baroness Doreen Lawrence. I'm delighted to be here with you today to talk about the important work happening between the Stephen Lawrence Day Foundation and our friends and partners at Charlton Athletic. Many of you will know that my son Stephen was killed in an unprovoked racist attack in Eltham, not far from here. And Charlton Athletic, the club that is also significant in this community, was located in the same area. This gives the club a special significance to me and my family. I am incredibly proud of the work the club has done over the years to honour Stephen's memory and promote diversity, inclusion and equity through initiatives like the Red, White, Black Match Days. The Stephen Lawrence Day Foundation exists to inspire the more equitable, inclusive society and to foster opportunity for marginalised young people in the UK. We are relying on the support of partners like Charlton and Charlton Live to help us keep this work in classrooms, community and careers going. It is so important that we continue this work to challenge discrimination and promote equity in football and all aspects of our society. As we face ongoing challenges, it is vital that we come together to support each other and create a better future for all. Thank you for having me on the show, and I look forward to continue to support the important work of Charlton Live, Charlton Athletic, the Red, White and Black Day Initiative and the CARE Partnership.